Myself into a weird situation where Syria had surrendered to the Egyptians, but there were still Assyrians kicking around, and then this is gone. These are all gone. I haven't done all the cleanup I'm supposed to. These are all gone. Anyway, they were the only country that's still paying tribute to Assyria, other than the Persians, who can't refuse. Notably, just look at this, boom, boom, boom. There's no modifier here that's in play that's causing it. These just ended up getting lucky or unlucky, but in this case it's lucky because there's no way Assyria is going to be able to handle them. And if they're not handled, if we went to another turn, these would flip over and provide a penalty from then until later. One thing I haven't been keeping track of is the points for countries not having been conquered. I've got to assign those. I did the first turn and I forgot the rest, so I'm going to boost the victory points for that. And then I'll go on to the Phrygians, whom I hadn't handed cards to. I gave the Assyrians cards, who didn't deserve them. The Phrygians did deserve them because they're controlled over here by Babylon. And they'll start things up, but they have nothing. First couple of countries, the Phrygians and Phyrexians, that's from Magic. That's what I keep calling them. And the Cimmerians have gone. The Phrygians built up some of their forces here. The Cimmerians marched the Assyrian army group up here and conquered it. This is kind of a problem. I can't hold this. However, I do have an opportunity to demand surrender, which succeeds, actually. And that's worth a victory point for the Assyrians. And we can add that territory to Assyria for whatever it matters. But the big important thing is that we get to cancel them out and they won't be coming again. They're not really an issue, but that definitely was effective. Thinking about the victory point thing, where all the victory points moved, it brought up and I posted this over on the game box on the forum. The idea of, sometimes that happens in the midst of a game where a significant amount of points just appears from that no one was paying attention to, because nobody really, was maybe paying attention to the victory point rules, and they see it sometime later, and everybody was thinking, because they're following victory point tracks, especially in Euros and stuff like that, that the balance of power was, or proto-Euros, like, well, not proto, but demi-Euros, like the coin series, and other things with a victory point track. Everybody's kind of thinking, oh, geez, the victory points are a certain way, I'm going to take certain actions based on them, and everybody was just wrong. And I mean, there's really almost nothing you can do about it to satisfy everyone. You can follow the written rules, in which case the game would have gone completely differently had those points been tracked accurately, or you have sort of this surprise victory, and it's just an unsatisfying situation as far as I'm concerned. Of course, not knowing the rules completely is often leads to that kind of thing in a game. Okay, anyway, we're up to the Scythians, and I gotta divide that stack and figure out what the hell I want to do with it. Problem for me in a game like this, and I have to say, it would apply to EU if victory points were, reasonable in that game. I have a real problem optimizing victory points in something like this. I can do it in, the coin series games, in Euros, in History of the World, and all kind of stuff like that. But in this, I just feel like I've got something a little grander. I actually feel like I'm kind of playing a war game, and it feels wrong to optimize victory conditions and points, or optimize victory points to get victory conditions. That's a weird sort of thinking. I'm sure the ASL players are more like the Euro players in this. They're so used to focusing absolutely on victory. And likewise with a lot of games. But with something like this, I just don't feel like it's possible for me. I'm not sure why. I kind of have little trouble doing it in, say, Here I Stand, which should be just as grand and encompassing. But maybe it's because I don't really have a grasp of how the victory works. And that might actually be the issue. First of all, there's a lot of things that give you victory points. And then... you get a bonus based on your economic power compared to the economy that you started with, which is kind of cool. I'm just trying to see. I haven't really been paying all that much attention to it. For games ending or during turn 1, Assyria must meet penalized victory conditions. If I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. If Assyria has more victory points than the best and worst score, they win. If not, and one other power has more victory points than any other power except Assyria. So yeah, I guess that's what we're looking at right now. Our worst score seems to be the guys who I just played and took a couple more cities, didn't get any victory points off of it, and that's why I'm thinking, geez, I should be getting victory points here. Well, economy counts, but no matter what, I should be, right? That's 10 for them, and we're looking at 20 here, that's like 30, and we're in the 66 for the Assyrians. I don't see anyone catching. I don't see the pair catching them under whatever circumstances. I just don't see it. That would mean the lowest valued guy would probably have, somewhere in the range of 25 points or so. And, he's only gotten 10 throughout the game, right? Nobody's launching any big attacks on Assyria yet. Assyria, their income has gone way down. It's good 5-6 points below what it was before, mainly tribute losses. Nobody's paying them anymore, except these miners, I think. Phrygia, or Phrygias. I'm wondering why I'm only at 2. Oh, these are conquered, not actually miners paying tribute. Okay, that's why. They're just counted in the economy now. Let's see. We have a buildup by most of the forces. The Egyptians added Israel to their alliance factor. It was just a couple of points to do it. Got them a quick victory point off that. And another power that's not terribly useful, but that can help them bust through. Somebody is got a card to increase Judah. I think the Babylonians do. But they want to wait until maybe they win a victory to take a chance at that. Because if they can take something like Ashur, which is a level 4 city, and is kind of hanging out there, then they can convert Judah over to them pretty easily. A lot of mercenaries built up for Babylon. The reason for that is they actually played the card that allowed them to pull a lot heavy points of regular units, but then they also have this recruit mercenaries that'll give them 3 more mercenaries, which if they don't have mercenaries available for themselves, they can pull out of the game pool. If they're not available there, they can create their own regulars that way. Not that that matters too much, but regulars are a little bit better. I think there are still enough mercenaries that they probably can get the mix that they need. It's hard to tell. It looks like there may be shortages because it has to be certain numbers, and they can dig into their manpower pool for replacements for that. Preemption is Assyria's if they want it. Might. I don't know. And let's see. The Medians threw the gathering of the tribes again. Why? Well, because you get victory points for your economic gain from your original economy. So that's actually another factor. If Assyria's economy is so hosed, or if they're conquered, which is a possibility at this point. Anybody can be conquered now. You just have to drop them down to 2 home areas. So that's all. A lot of interesting factors in play for this final turn. Maybe taking Assyria out is almost a requirement to win the game. They don't get a penalty there, but there's a lot of victory points to be had for being part of that conquest. As the Scythians begin to advance through here, the Assyrians decide their best move is a Scythian truce. This costs them nothing. It works against a player, Scythian, and prevents them from fighting with you. It actually doesn't prevent you from fighting them. I think they'll run away from you. I don't know how much sense that makes now that the Scythians are sort of a player. The wording of that one rule is what destroys everything here. If that rule hadn't been worded the way it was, if that rule didn't exist, I would assume the Scythians continue playing as a nomad under the control of a player, and he has a chance to make some points off of it, but not a hell of a lot. But the way that rule is worded, it turns them into a player power and negates nearly all the nomad rules. But this very specifically says it affects them, and I would say it would anyhow. This is bad news for everyone. This is the lowest victory point guy. In order to get his victory points up, he might have to attack the Medes, which means the Medes would have to fight him, and it might screw everything up. Indeed, the Medes had the countermeasure for it, and they're playing that, preventing that event by the Assyrians to take effect. And, well, now the Assyrians still have that problem to face. It's funny because this was the number one issue that they were facing, and they were saying, okay, they took a couple of territories, let's buy them off at this point, and we can turn our attention to the Babylonians and maybe knock them out. But gotta handle them now. And kind of victories everywhere. Egyptians have pulled down and grabbed this. That'll let the forces of Israel out. They're holding this as an Egyptian territory, though, just in the hopes that that increases their economic value. They're now rebuilding the fortifications. The Medes, you can see, have swung down through here, grabbing up some economic stuff and actually starting in on the conquest. And we had the Babylonians swing into here, and oops, I forgot to play a card I want to play, which is the alliance here. Which means I may not build this extra unit, but I'm going for Israel, for Judah, and this is actually cost me 1 less. 3 dice doubled, huh? So I get 6, 7, 14 points, and that gives me another victory point as we've shot up to 21 points. We're getting some of the more powerful ones are getting some definite gain here. I don't know if it's enough that even if there's an Assyrian conquest, that'll work out because the Assyrians have banked so many points. But the big problem there is conquering the Assyrians is worth 12 points. Eliminating them, which we may be able to do, is worth triple that. But it gets divided among the nations that are actually involved in it. So, if the Scythians are involved, it might just end up being pretty impressive. But otherwise, I'm not really convinced. I'm thinking that maybe everybody should get the full value of it for eliminating them to kind of balance things more, because it looks really, really tough as it is. But I'll play it out as written and see what we get. Right now, Egypt has no foothold in the Assyrian homeland, and for that matter, neither do the Scythians. So, if there were a check that could be taken for conquest or elimination, it would be for wait, does eliminate only? No, eliminates only double, so that's only 24 points. Yeah, it's going to be pretty hard to split up and get any value out of any chance of a victory, but whatever. But yeah, there's no chance until Nineveh falls. Nineveh must fall. Now that's kind of damaged. I might want to repair that as the Assyrians. I got some real problems here. So, you know, if two of the countries could eliminate them while the Assyrians are bugging with the Scythians and the Egyptians are not yet up there in force, and they may not be able to get so, it would be a hefty amount of points. I don't know if it's enough. Remember, though, you get that economic modifier, and that's going to be a pretty big penalty on Assyria's hands if they're destroyed, right? I think they lose their entire economy. I got a question of what that means for, say, Elam. Do they take a big penalty, too? If they do, that may even things out for what Assyria needs to get, because Elam is obviously the weakest of the powers right now. Just a little catch up to the point that I want to make. We see Jerusalem. I forgot to put them on the board. They've started building their forces, though. I forgot to give them their card, basically. They just came in. And then Judah has been incorporated into this army. It meant leaving behind a leader, but nothing else. My army has been trimmed enough that now I get a couple extra troops that I can launch forward on my attack, and I can actually leave the Judah units to garrison places for me. And there could be a danger with that, though, in case it changes hands or whatever. That's the same kind of situation I have here with the Kimmerans garrisoning that. If I lose control of them, then it becomes theirs instead of mine. We had the Scythians make a move into here to siege Toprak-Kale, and the Assyrian army has intercepted, and that's what you're seeing over here. And this is kind of a ridiculous case of the heavies versus archers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 archers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 heavies. I can't be hurt as the Assyrians by that force. All I can do is shoot it up, or chop it up. And I think there's a card. I had a card previously that would have allowed my bow fire to go first, but it doesn't make a difference. Think of an amusing situation coming out here as the Assyrians actually march down here with their big army, the one that was up facing the Scythians. You can look at this however you like, but it was probably dumb I had this army in place, but I can't raise troops there. Anyway, I march down here, and now as we engage, both armies have a lot of mercenaries. Both also played a card. Now in their case they played turncoats, and they're going to spend their 2 points. That allows them to steal 3 mercenaries from the enemy, mercenaries of the original owner's choice. He's going to give up his cav for this. But on the other side, the Assyrians get to grab up to X mercenaries, which can't be larger than 8. And you get to choose them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, if you win the battle, you get to keep these. If you don't, they go into the regroup box. So there's sort of a special separate command. I gotta spend 8. I'm gonna go 2 in debt for this. And just because it's such a bonus card for me overall. It was indeed a completely massive loss. The entire Babylonian force destroyed. A couple units in the regroup box, otherwise everything dead. The Assyrians got the extra militia or extra mercenaries. The Medians have made the decision of, you know what? If we can't beat this, there's no hope for destroying Assyria, basically. We've got our whole army here. They bought mercenaries off of Egypt and the Scythians. Now, the Scythians could have used the mercenaries, perhaps. The Egyptians certainly could have filled out their force, but they still have a few left. Remember, they in Babylon got extra mercenaries this turn. Egypt's quite far away, and the Medians are basically saying, look, you know, if I can't, with the largest army that's out here, the most potent army, because the Scythians are kind of iffy, being almost all bow, although I have a humongous bow complement here too. If I can't take this out, we're done, you know. We might as well be calling this a game here. So we may see a resurgence of Assyria in the sense that if this move wasn't made, Assyria would have to continue to play on the defensive. But if they destroy this army too, they're kind of free to march up and smack that and then, you know, do whatever they like, basically. Or pin that. They don't even have to smack it. They can just position themselves so that they can intercept if it comes near their cities, because these can't move as an army group. Well, unless the Medes end up with an army group up there to deliver Scythian troops together, which might happen. Well, the Medes had nothing going for them, really. A bunch of archers here, all canceled out. No chance of them actually doing damage, so that wipes out, you know, the majority of their army. The Assyrians throw the God Asher card. Boom, it looks like it's over, right? Well, when I started rolling the dice, it started looking like Assyria was going to lose, and then they got kind of lucky on these guys. Now, these guys are all 2s instead of 1s, so they're not as lousy as they seem. So it ended up tied up. We're going to take the losses and the retreats. This is still in play. Now, the Assyrians would have played their force another round of combat card with the bloodbath if necessary. So, you know, this was to be expected. It's just it came out of luck because they just tied up. That's going to be bad, but both sides are going to face routes, etc., and we'll see what happens. Problem with this round is the Assyrians are going to take more damage, and they did over here, even with that bonus, because all these archers count now. They're meleeing now, so they're fine. They only suck when they're firing their arrows, which is the first round of combat. I got to see what the results look like after the round of battle. I don't know how much this battle's worth. It's at least 2 points, probably 3. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, that's 2. I think I dumped as many. Yeah, I got to estimate here, but I think it's a 3-point battle, a big battle. And, you know, if I can swing it, I'd like to, but we'll see what comes out, because I'm taking more losses than the Medians are, and I may need to just fall back and try to, you know, combine with some of those forces, see what I can do. Which, I mean, it's cool in terms of the game. It sucks for the Assyrians, but it's cool for the game, because otherwise, really, this was a cakewalk for Assyria if they win this battle by any dramatic means. I don't know how wise a move this is, but the Medes are calling for an Assyrian surrender. They've captured Nineveh, taking the points for that. They're up there at like 28 victory points. That's pretty impressive. That only puts 39, though, at the total, which is nowhere near enough. Destroying Assyria might have done some more. Who knows? As it is, it has to be Nineveh and 5 other home cities. Well, that's not quite right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I add 6 to the die roll, which means only on a 1 do I succeed. The reason I'm trying for this instead of trying to go for an elimination victory or situation is that I really don't think that I'm going to be able to survive You know, I'm stretched out so much in so many destroyed territories that this is sort of the best chance we have. I guess, I don't know. But it doesn't happen, which means I'm going to spend some of those points to slow them down a little bit. I only have a couple of points to spend. I could go into deficit spending here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to make it a -2. Just give myself a little bit more defenses here. The Babylonians, though, are there. They're going to get a chance to reinforce, and maybe actually, they don't have the kind of points to raise an army and hit here. The Scythians might be able to do some damage, but they're not going to be able to sweep down and take this on. And that's kind of the problem, is this army is big enough to screw with me. So I have to hit it again. And how much chance, does the Mede army have of doing another victory? Otherwise, I would have gone right for it. Egypt pushes its way up to Kadesh. I can pick up that unit and drop something weaker. The only weaker thing I really have are the Israelites, but that might be a good move there, just to get some more power for when I head into Assyrian land. I'm assuming that they won't be able to play an alliance breaker card, and it looks pretty damn unlikely that Assyrians are going to get down here to force the Israelites out of the war. So I can assume that they'll hold my position there. And I don't know. I think the Israelites moved actually for that, and then working our way through the Babylonians, whatever, rebuilding type exercise. You get an army here, which isn't very potent. And the Kimrans moved to the Assyrian army and swept through much of this territory. Now, I can't really solidify that territory, and I'm ruling that a city without any defenses is not worth any victory points, but a damaged city is worth the full victory points if you take it, because otherwise I'd have to mark, what level it was at when the siege started, which seems kind of goofy. But that basically means that there's a big swath of territory. If somebody could jump in like the Scythians and grab much of it, they'd be able to force maybe another shot at a surrender by the Assyrians. It turns out the Scythians were not quite able to get the Assyrians down low enough. They weren't able to get the 5 cities plus Nineveh in conjunction with the Medes. So, and mainly because this one didn't fall, I was hoping it would. Did a little bit of rebuilding, had a lot of points this turn, and I'm kind of positioned in a place where maybe I can intercept if and when the Assyrians come marching back up to hit. It'll give me a little bit of a chance. We'll see. We're at what may be the battle for the survival of Assyria. Probably not a battle for the game, but if Assyria wins this, chances are they've not only got their survival, but the game is completely in their hands. We're not sure, because there is still another big force out there. But they marched up, dropped the Kimrans here so that they could pick up new forces that they built. They built the forces there first so that they couldn't be intercepted when they moved into that space, picked them up, got a better leader, and actually they have room for the forces under him. The thing is, though, what they left behind is just crappy bowmen who might be of effect against the Scythians, because the Scythians don't have, they got an interception, which is the key. This force wouldn't have been able to cope, but the force out here intercepted into there, and fair chance of that, and brought a lot of heavies with them. So bowmen aren't going to matter on either side, because of course the Assyrians have a pile of heavies too. Scythians don't have many heavies, so concentrating them makes them more valuable, because then they're immune to bows, right? If you don't concentrate them, then a big bow army can still kind of wipe out your army. Okay, and I don't think the Scythians have no cards, and I don't think there's anything that I can use here. I have the bloodbath if I don't win on the first round. It's always a useful option. I was back a lot of points, so my army is not in great shape, but I got to stop them, you know. Stop them, I certainly did. 15 hits against 5. 4 of them insta kills. This is wiped. Yep. In the next battle royale, the Medes pick up their troops, actually from here and here I believe, on their way down to fight this battle. They've evacuated the Assyrian cities. Now they're not going to get points for regaining those cities, but the idea is I need as much as I can take to fight this final battle. And this is sort of the grand battle. There's very little left. The Assyrians, all they have to defend them are the Cimmerians here, and otherwise they're, you know, very close to being destroyed. We'll see how it all works out, but forces from here could push this way and grab some of these cities that are open. Some of them are not, like this one, but a lot of these are indeed available to just be marched into, and this could begin pushing back that way. Egyptians, whatever, they can all move up and grab some of the territory, and if they get it down to only 2 Assyrian spaces, and one would be this one presumably because it's defended, then well, this guy, I can't leave these territories actually. Oops. But yeah, then Assyria could be destroyed. Now, I think they still come back as the Cimmerians plus a minor, which means they're not out of the game in terms of the total amount of glory they can accomplish. But other than the Cimmerians, nothing's really at war with anyone else. So whatever minor they take, assuming they could take one that's allied with someone else, well, then they couldn't go to war, I guess. I don't know. I think it would break the alliance. I have to look to see if that's allowable, but Phoenicia would be a very good choice because Phoenicia can maybe get some of the trade victory points, maybe. And the casualties are going against the Assyrians here. They took 8 plus an auto hit, and they're going to pull out the Assyrian bloodbath and push in another level. Now, this may not be their best move, but at least they caused some more hits, and they have a chance of winning the battle overall. I couldn't afford the bloodbath. Down to almost no troops. It wouldn't make sense. Which means the Medians are going to have to chase me and try to launch a siege assault here. Well, maybe just a normal siege. See, the problem is, I knock the whole force out if I get 2 hits on a normal siege. But I can't stand another round of battle. That's the problem. So I've got to take refuge within the city. Maybe I'll cause more damage, slow them down, make it so they can't destroy Assyria very quickly. I was mistaken. I misread the overrun rules or misremembered them. I can't continue an attack into here. It was turning out to be a significant Mede victory. But as long as there's a retreating force, and there was a retreating force here, I'm stopped after that battle. Considered disorganized enough, so I get a little used marker there. And now it's time to start grabbing things. And we see the Egyptians cutting up, grabbing this for Israel. And over here, the Babylonians beginning to get themselves in there, and we're really seeing the piecing up of the Assyrian Empire. The Assyrians, if they're going to get another turn, and they can actually jump in and take one, they may want to. The problem is they don't have any points banked. But as it stands, there's so many cities. See, here's the thing. If they build up Nineveh, then they're giving victory points to someone else. And that's the problem with building any of their cities up. They're going to give victory points away. So taking an action to try to put defenses that aren't going to hold well is actually not in their best interest. Their best interest is just to let themselves fall, I think. Because I think they still get their cards and everything with their new empire, whatever that ends up being. And we run down through the tail. There's not a lot that can be done down there. Remembered to put my boats on the board and use them, I guess. But then when we got to Assyria, they pulled themselves a foreign war, Mede versus Mede, and that took 10 troops off the board for 4 impulses. That's going to give them a huge respite. This is all that's left of the Median army. That was good enough that I was able to decide, well, I can rebuild a lot of my fortifications, because it's going to be much harder for them to come out and actually do anything within them. And I threw some extra troops down here in Nineveh as well out of the regroup box to give myself a little bit more strength. And we'll see if I can hold off that way. If I can't, it's a lot of victory points. Like if the Medians are able to take Nineveh again, that's going to be a pain in the ass. But as you can see, they don't have much of an army left. But we'll see. That's pretty much what they have to do. Now, Babylon had enough of an army to take the Assyrians out. Basically, you have the Egyptians who have pushed through all of here. The Medians are still where they are. The Babylonians here. There's 3 Assyrian cities. One of them is Nineveh. There's no way to either conquer or destroy them at this point. But, you know, it looks pretty obvious that they're going to fall very soon. Nineveh goes, it's over, right? I don't see another city that they hold. So they would be eliminated from the game at that point. But the player's not eliminated. He still has this huge victory point sheaf, and he'd be getting a new country. Just like Elam over here got a new country. Sort of the baseline, though, if you don't knock the Assyrians out, the game is going to be an Assyrian victory, I think, for certain. Feels to me like they had to be knocked out a little earlier, maybe with a squabble afterwards over points or hunting down whatever replaced them. Anyway, we're down onto the miners. Not a lot I expect out of them. Ireland really has nothing to add at this point. So Assyria built up a small little force here. Didn't have enough points to launch an attack. They want to build up some more troops or else bring these down, abandon this territory, and try to save Nineveh. And they got lucky. The Medes were able to recuperate some of their... They lost some units due to play of this harvest card by the Assyrians, which did some attrition. Well, threw some units into the regroup box. But, you know, they're able to take mercenaries, so and those are mercenaries only they can hire, so they picked them back out of the pool and managed to reduce Nineveh down 2 more points. It's a 2 now, which should fall next time, so the Assyrians kind of have to jump in. Now, the Assyrians have more cards than the Medes, more cards than everyone, I think. In fact, they've got too many more cards, so they may want to jump in order to try and get a bonus there. They've got a real problem, which is that the Egyptian army can reach Nablus here. So to some extent they have to protect against that, because if they lose that, they're down to 2 areas again. Boom, Assyria falls. Oh, the Assyrians trump in, gather everything they can with they use their plus card. I got a couple extra points. Spent 2 on that. I think I got 1 point. Oh, I already banked it. Okay. And they were unable to defeat the Medians. In fact, there was enough force there that the Medians get a victory point. Not to improve their economy along with that. And what that basically means is the Egyptians have the opportunity to take this and end things. That means the Medians aren't going to get the big points for taking Nineveh. But yeah, there really aren't any more options there. Got a bit of a problem here. I don't think we've quite reached this, but there are points for eliminating the Scythians, Cimmerians, Aramaeans, and Arabians. I guess with the Aramaeans and Arabians, it's easy enough. If you wipe out the last unit of them, you'll get that point. And I guess the same with the Scythians and Cimmerians. I haven't been looking at that as any kind of goal because I didn't realize it was worth anything. I thought they'd just respawn. That's what the rules seem to indicate, but this is the first indication that that's not the case. Anyhow, we just had the elimination, and we're getting our points here, which are double the cost for conquering. It's got this 2 stars here, but no description of what that means. I'll have to make it up. That's going to be 12. See, here it says to count the victory points at the start of the siege. Well, you got to write all kind of shit down or use all kind of markers that are going to get confusing if you do that. So I haven't been doing that. Anyway, so 12, it's going to be doubled, is 24, unless there may be special rules for conquest of Assyria. I seem to remember some. I don't know. I'll have to find it. I also think the Assyrians are going to get those penalties. Hey, we need to reduce their points as much as possible. Getting conquered doesn't reduce your points. Sick. Assyria can't be eliminated until Nineveh is taken. You must take the capital in order to destroy a power, which means the Egyptians get to keep going. Once they do, the question is, does something else immediately become part of their camp? Because if not, whoever finishes them off gets an extra 4 points for killing off the entire camp. Now, you could say, well, the Cimmerians are part of that camp. Yeah, but there aren't any Cimmerians on the board. Oh, there's one over here. Oh, shit. Yeah, otherwise, the Babylonians got some points for destroying the Cimmerians. Assyria has nothing they can do. After the Egyptians managed to knock out both their cities. This is kind of key because they've got nowhere they can build more troops. They could jump in and do some trade war. Afterwards, and I probably should. Except maybe I want to use my cards for my other power when I get one. I'm going to get... The problem is I have too many cards. So we'll probably trump in again. Babylon went, and they didn't really do anything in terms of on the board. They built up their fortresses just in case somebody gets the wise idea of declaring war on them to try to, score more points than they have. Although really, that doesn't look like a valid way towards trying to get to victory in this game. As it stands right now, the Medes are ahead anyway at 29. That brings us to 36. Nowhere near the point total that I think we need. Part of me wonders if it should be half the... you only have to match half what the Assyrians get because it's just so incredible. Yeah, I don't think there's any way of catching the Assyrians here. But, we'll make our best effort to score points. The real problem is the worst place person just has no points. Because if we were combining the first and second, we'd be looking at 29 and 25, 54. We're in the range, A little bit of luck here, the extra points for economy and everything, maybe it would make sense, but the problem is there's someone doing so poorly. And that's kind of a weird situation, which is like, okay, it doesn't matter how well I do. if there's some butthead out there who doesn't do very well at all, I've got to try to give him points or something. That's, I don't know, that's kind of distasteful in my mouth. I'd rather see, hey, if you can make half of what the Assyrians make, you deserve a victory or something. If I thought this was a close game, I wouldn't be doing this probably, but the Assyrians go for one more vainglorious attempt. Last turn, they played, or they jumped in front of the Cimmerians and played this careful preparation. You gotta play a card for this turn too. It doesn't have to be a very good one. They should have played this earlier. I make so many mistakes. Anyway, I'll play the deportation because that's worth 3 points. Although that could be useful with something else. I've got extra points. I'll probably end up using them for that. So I got 3 extra points that I want to mark for now. But anyway, I created a new little army, and I'm launching that. Not that. How about this? And that would have cost me an extra 2 points, so I'm down to 1 extra point. I'm making one last attempt to attack here, and I loaded up on heavies because they have a couple of archers that I can negate that way. That was impossible. That was why it was impossible. I've got nowhere I could build them. Crap, I don't know. I took some losses that I shouldn't have on here, and I'm just gonna say screw it. The attempt to cheat by the Assyrians loses them their turn, and now we'll make the attack on Nineveh. And with nothing terribly wrong there, I'm gonna steal this, bring it back there, just, I don't know, because it excites me to steal, to loot from them, and I think that's what they would do. The Medes did indeed take out Assyria. That means the 3 powers, not the Scythians, they're not in Syria proper. Split the victory points. They each get 8 victory points. The Medes also got like 4, I think, for the city. And now what? We're out of cards across the board with the exception of Assyria, which has a whole pile of cards. Basically, Assyria can... they're going to get to be not Assyria anymore. They're going to be the Cimmerians, and one other power, one minor country. And that's where they got to look. And there's, wow, lots of points for the Phoenicians. So I think they're going to rip the Phoenicians away from this alliance. As far as I can tell, you can do this. And I don't know where they go. Oh, we killed the camp. That's 4 more points for the Medes. I don't think they're at war with anyone. So, you know, they would have to declare war specifically to do it. So really all that we're really doing here is trying to get a few more points, maybe playing with the trade rules. Right now, the Medes have a pile of points to throw into trade. They've been buying off problems in their territory after they took the city. And that's basically what we're going to just do is run through, see if anybody's got the points to buy a card. So obviously some people do. Like Babylon is going to have enough points, and Egypt's going to have enough points. So they each get another turn because Assyria is holding that. I get the final turn, which means Assyria is going to, well, not Assyria, Phoenicia is going to get a chance to trump in and do more. I don't know. I didn't use up very good cards there. So there's really not much harm in having wasted those cards. Some, certainly. But you know what? Let's cheat against Assyria for a little bit. And through Egypt and Babylon. Babylon's got enough points they could actually launch a war. The problem, of course, there is all they have is this territory that's sort of... They committed some of their troops. They got like 7 points left on them, though. I could build a unit and launch an attack against I don't know, the Medes or something, but it would only be a one-unit attack. There's nothing really appealing. What I've been doing with both them and Egypt didn't have a lot of money, so they were able to just do this. They sent their navy out here to look. It failed to find the Phoenicians and went home. And then they sent some raiders out to play on the trade world. And Babylon did the same thing with raiders, but they took them out of their army group, and, well, they got some success. They made a roll first and then attacked for additional places, because there will be one more raid around during an implied but perhaps not correctly interpreted by me final economic round after this last turn. This is the last chance that Babylon has to do anything. They really don't have any actions that they can take, so these extra points are pretty much wasted. You know, I could build a 7-point unit just to protect territory that I wouldn't otherwise be able to protect, in the off chance that somebody invades or something, but there's really no chance of that. Now we're pushing on to Phoenicia, who is, I believe, what they chose, so I don't have them set up. They were already in play this turn. Otherwise, I don't know why they'd be here. I don't know. Oh, they were somebody's ally, and now they're in play, and I think they have no cards. I'm trying to find them. Strangely, I don't have their pieces set up, other than what they have on the board. I don't have... Okay, maybe they're just a little single sliver somewhere. Oh, there they are. Okay. And I don't think they can make much money because they're not in great shape, so they're at 0. Officially, they're paying tribute, and I can't just refuse that without declaring war. Who are they paying tribute to? No one anymore. So I actually get 1 point, but that's not going to give me 4, so I'm not going to get a card off them. However, I think I could have trumped in with them because I have the most cards. I have cards. I don't have to buy a card. Yeah, I get an action with them. I could have trumped in, but I don't know what the hell to do with them. So we'll see if there's anything of value. They're not at war with anyone, and I probably won't have enough points to be at war with anyone. I have 1 point in hand right now because this is an economic phase. I have another point for this saved point of Assyria's, maybe. I don't know. And beyond that, I have another 4 points. I could have used 3 more earlier, so I could allow that as well if I wanted. But I don't know what the hell they can do. They've got their boats here. I could send some raiders out. There's 1 to send a raider. The cheapest things I can get. These guys are 5 each. Oops. These guys are actually better. So I'll just send 1 of these out. You know, since I have the extra points on the other card, I'll send this one out too. We'll just pretend that they trumped in. First one's going to go after 1. Second one is going to go after 3. We have some quick combats. I guess bowfire happens first. No. We're hit and returned back here. And then here, that heavy Cimmerian that I don't... Is that a Cimmerian? How the hell's a Cimmerian in there? Maybe that's an Egyptian that got stuck in there somehow. Well, he's going to kill me. So, I don't know. I'm not sure those are... I think they are allowed in there, but I don't know how he got in there. I got 2 more points. I'm not going to be able to use my Cimmerians, though, I guess. I don't know. There's no real rules for handling these dual powers. in terms of how they focus at the end of the turn. Does this guy have cards for both his powers? What are these cards exactly? You know, who gets the home cards? Who gets the hand that was there? I don't know. So I may have actually just cheated in favor of Assyria. Maybe they shouldn't have had any cards left after their destruction. We're okay. Okay, so now we're going to go to a period where I'm going to calculate up what all the economies are. I don't think there's a whole hell of a lot else that's going to happen in the interphase, the pseudo interphase that's going to happen here. So I'm going to calculate the economies, and I'm going to check for trade for the victory points. The trade economy I don't think gets added into the normal economy. Obviously tribute doesn't, so we're just going to look at basically the city count plus the economic bonuses, and then that gets compared to their starting economy as a plus minus factor. And God knows what that means for, say, Assyria, who has lost their entire economy, or Elam, who has also lost their entire economy. I'll have to think about that. The first thing I'm going to do in this end of game phase is actually count the trade, just because that's a little easier for me to do. So trade points are resolved the combats for them. Right now we've got 6 for Elam, the Scythians. Remember, they count as a power, therefore they must have the power rolls, whatever they are. I have 4, 7, 10 for the Assyrians, and 4, 6 here for the Babylonians, and I think everybody else is below that. So the Assyrians are going to get 3 victory points, 1, 2, 3, and Elam and the Babylonians each get 1. Hold on. Babylon's actually at 8. Let's drop, because I got to count these, make it 9. Isn't that what they were at? 4, 7, 10 now. And I don't know, the Simrans are part of what they are now, so I don't know if they get a point for trade for them. And nobody else has significant holdings in terms of people beyond the trade level, do they? 1 here, 1 here. So nobody's going to catch up. 2 there. Nobody's going to catch up to those 2. So that's the pointage there. Now I have to figure out what to do with the economic scores. And I'm going to figure out what the economic scores are, and then try to figure out what that should mean in terms of the victory conditions, the way they're worded. 2 points here. The economies listed here on the initial starting position, I think had to include trade. It's just trade must have been weak on that turn, so everybody's likely to get points off this. Well, not the Assyrians, I guess. I don't know. I also forgot the Babylonian market, which doubles their trade, so that's going to be 2 points swinging into the Babylonians from the Assyrians there, just because the Babylonians definitely had more trade if it's doubled. I forgot about that.